WSTU, it is 9:06, and it is time for the Forum with your host, Pat Sacco.
Good morning, Michael.
Morning, Pat.
Well, it's the last day of January.
Yes, it is.
My goodness. My goodness. I've just read something about the older you get, the faster time goes. And they say it's because you're so much more involved in things. You get more involved in things. You're taking on more responsibilities. You know, you're constantly reading about techniques and all these things. That's what makes apparently our feelings. Remember when you were a kid, you got up and you went outside and played what seemed like a week, and then it was time for lunch. You know,
Christmas seemed like so far away, and now
it's like
comes too soon.
like zip. You know. Well, we'll be talking about Christmas pretty soon, another month or so. Well, anyway. I have to say good morning to some people. I used to do a bingo at a church, and we didn't give the money to the church. We gave it to outreach. We supported House of Hope, Molly's House. What's the other one? There's hibiscus programs for the children and the adults and stuff. Not a lot of money, but we were gathering money. I'm a community person. I don't like the fact that if we're raising money for something through a church, we're giving it to some exotic things in Antarctica if your neighbor's hungry.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to take care of us first. Doesn't that sound like we've been talking about politically? Let's take care of ourselves first.
Yeah, right. Charity begins at home.
So, and there were people that followed me, came up from Hope Sound to Jensen Beach to do this kind of thing. And let's see if I can do Kay and Betty and Sheila and Maggie and Sandy and Patricia, a couple others, and Adrian, who's home listening to this program right now. So I have to be very careful what I say.
Good morning, Andrew.
Adrian. Yes. I have to be careful. We had a problem yesterday. She was leaving work, and she looked down and her rear tire was flat. So she drove across the street to a gas station. She was on East Ocean Boulevard. As she's putting the air in, she's hearing this hiss from the tire.
No.
So I had to go out in there. We got a tow truck. We towed it up to a place in Port St. Lucie. And I stopped this morning. They're going to take care of the tire. I'm like, ooh, nightmare.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah. Anyway, I have a couple of guests with me today from a really nice place with an excellent administrator. Is she listening?
She may be.
Well, if she's not, she can pick up the program because it goes on my website. And I have a question for you, Mike, afterwards about someone had been on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to ask him now. Someone had been on the show and wanted a copy of the original show. And I told him to go on YouTube.
Right.
Well, she tried to take YouTube and put it into her. I'm sorry. She tried to put that show into her website, and she couldn't do it.
Okay.
Must be a trick. But all you have to do is click on the show, right click, and says, copy the URL, and then you can paste it into your website.
So, it should be that simple. Are you asking me what to do?
Yeah.
We could talk about it off air.
Oh, okay. No, I want to talk about it. No, that's okay. Anyway, I have a couple of people here today from Tiffany Hall, which is a nursing and rehabilitation center.
Yes.
I don't like home. I don't like nursing home.
No.
It's
well, it
kinda
is
like
the
scary,
home, though.
but it's the home
very
to the
much
people, but
home.
We rehearse it as nursing because it is skilled nursing and it's rehabilitation as proof of we have a physical therapist here today. I have Julie Carmichael, who is, let me see, your title is?
I'm the admissions director. Julie Carmichael, admissions director at Tiffany Hall. New admissions director there. 120 bed skilled nursing facility offering long-term care, short-term rehab. We do respite care there. It's a fantastic. I fell in love. I walked in August, met the bubbliest receptionist I've ever met in my life on a weekend, actually, with my resume, and went back to meet fabulous administrator, Diane O'Sullivan, in October, and was hired. I'm very grateful for that because it is an absolutely phenomenally run facility. The care, the professional staff there is just, can't say enough. It really,
Top-notch,
really,
top-notch.
really is. And very happy to be there, and invite all the listeners in St. Lucie County and Martin County, if they would like to come by and visit, to come by. You don't have to make an appointment. Just come by and
Right down the road from Port St. Lucie
we're actually
Hospital.
located right across on Hillmore Drive, 1800 Southeast Hillmore Drive, right across the street from St. Lucie Medical Center.
Correct. And we have Andrea Knapp,
Hi.
who's the rehab director, right?
Correct.
That's rehab program manager. Okay. And she is a physical therapist.
Yes.
Wow.
I am also fairly new at Tiffany Hall. And I just like Julie, when I came in, I was very impressed with the building and the people and the staff that I met there. The residents are wonderful. And the thing that really stood out to me was the longevity of the staff, which to me told me that people really liked it there.
Thank you.
That they worked there, that they did that nobody was looking to leave. So that said a lot about the way it's run and everything that's offered
Yeah,
there. So-
I like to.
When I, just being that I'm so old, I've done a lot of things. And I was an ombudsman for 6 years.
Okay.
And people used to ask me, what do I look for? When I go in, I say, forget pretty. 70% or more of the residents in nursing homes have some form of dementia. They're not aware of the pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I look for? I said, you look for the longevity of the nurses and the CNAs. I know one program where there are 25, 30 years of CNAs and nurses, and that's where Julie came from. Terrific rehab,
Mhm.
terrific taking care of patients.
Yeah.
Now the building needs to be replaced. Okay. But again, it's not the
It's
pretty.
not the pretty. It really isn't.
You walk into, and I
the-
know there was a nursing home that opened up years ago. It was gorgeous. Terrible reputation
Mm.
for rehab. Terrible reputation for interactions with patients and families, and that's what you look for. Plus, then I load the suggestion saying, if you're touring a place and you happen to see somebody visiting someone, say to the tour guide, "Excuse me," go up to the visitor and say, "How do you like it here?"
That's been my experience when I'm
A
touring.
lot of people get nervous when you do that. Well,
no,
they're there. They know what's going on.
no,
and
that's
okay.
been my experience when I'm touring. The family members will actually say, the care here, I'm so
That's-
happy. They'll come back after their loved one has, passed away, and they still come.
Yeah.
And
See, and that's what we were talking about earlier. That's not telling you what I'm going to do. It's showing you.
Right.
mhm,
This
Same with
is
the
a-
rehab, people who have come and received rehab at our facility, if something were to happen to them later, or they might refer a friend or a family member because of the experience that they've had there. So we see repeat people, who keep, come back every time they have a procedure or they have a hospitalization, because they know that that's where they're going to get the best care. They already know the therapists, they know the nurses, they know the aides, because they have been there. Even if you come back 10 years later, you could, chances are you're going to see the same staff. So that's
Well,
positive.
One of my areas, my expertise that I developed was working with people who stuttered, fluency problems. And I'd get a call from Austin, Texas, and somebody'd say, well, I'm looking for someone who's going to work with my child. And I said, don't just look at their certification. Find out who they've treated. Contact their clients and see whether it was fruitful or not, because that's a sensitive area. And not many therapists are trained really to do a good job with fluency disorders.
Mhm.
And, I'm not going to just make recommendations because you have national certification. And it's like saying, well, the doctor has a medical degree. Well, is he board certified? And if you're going to have open heart surgery, I think you might, as I did, talk to some of his patients. Hey, come on.
Right.
I'm not just going to say because you have a degree on the wall that you qualify for touching me. It's what else? Where do we go beyond that? And I'm not a very good patient because I ask questions, and I'm a dangerous patient because I know a little bit about medicine. And doctors are very uncomfortable when you have somebody like that, because then they're starting to ask questions and they're going, well, I'm typing my notes here. Don't bother me a minute. I'm hard on them because Um, I think there are two things that we lack in training of physicians and professionals, dentists, doctors. They should have a course in business administration, how to run a business, because they have a business. And sometimes they don't do the right thing in that business because they don't know what the right thing is. Like internal marketing is just as important as external marketing. And you have to make your staff feel good. You have to do special things to your staff to keep them, to retain them. In Emerald, for instance, where I used to work, we had a problem with CNAs that would leave the building for 10 or 15 cents an hour more to another place. Well, we bought the super duper electronic lifts. No more lifting. We were a total no lift facility. If somebody was on the floor, you could slip the little canvas thing and push the button, bring them up to a sitting position, wheel them around, and they're not a Hoyer lift at all. I mean, it's super expensive things. When they went to interview for that 25 cents an hour more, the first question they asked this place was, "Do you lift here?" "Yes, we do." "I want the job," because they didn't have to lift anymore. That investment they put into those lifts really established a longer staff because we were doing something to help them. So those kinds of things are very important.
On that note of internal marketing, at Tiffany Hall, I have to say my admissions coordinator and also our social services, Nettie, are absolutely so welcoming and so just, I cannot tell you the home health reps that are just open arm welcome there, and the families who come in to tour and the families we're taking care of, and just these two individuals are just exceptional in the hearts they have.
Well, I like it when somebody says, "Well, all nursing homes are like." No, each nursing, there's one across the street from you. It's kind of like Bolivia and Panama. You all have the same license, but there's a totally different culture in each building. Totally different culture.
And the
And
point
which is
you made
good,
about
which is good.
pretty isn't important, but it's in our case, one of the things when I first went to Tiffany Hall, the first thing you notice is just the landscaping there, and it turns out that Diane is a kind of on the side gardener, and picked those plantings on the outside of the facility and in the courtyard area. It's gorgeous, and it's where the residents spend their time, and when the weather's nice, in that courtyard area.
Well, as we know, there's
And
a
Diane
nursing home
created
that
that.
has a butterfly garden.
Yes.
Come on, wow.
Yes.
That's-
Yes. But it is.
You know?
It's when you have personal, part of you, and you put that into your facility, it really, really shows, I think.
I just was yesterday
It's
at what is it? Inspiration.
Oh yeah, Inspired Living.
Inspired Living.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Were you there?
yeah, I was there yesterday. Were you there?
I was at the marketing thing. That they did. Wasn't it last night? When was it? No,
I didn't go.
night before last. Yeah,
They had a thing
They
at
had at the Fresh
rest-
Catch.
at Fresh Catch. Yes.
Were you there?
Oh, no, I was at Fresh Catch yesterday
Oh, okay.
with their new marketer.
Oh, okay.
I just looked outside. I went to pick her up, and she. I looked outside, and she said, "Well, there's the pool down there." I looked at the thing, and along the side was this beautiful, like, wooded area. It was gorgeous, and I thought, "Wow, I would like to sit out here for a while and look at this beauty." And she said, "Well, if you're upstairs, you can look down. There's a pony farm." She said, "If you're upstairs and looking out, you can see the ponies running outside." Wow, this is really neat. And you set that tone. But
Yeah.
let's go back a minute. I want to know a little bit about you. You went to school where, my dear?
I went to St. Louis University in Missouri.
Okay, very good.
Wonderful school.
Yeah.
It's a Jesuit university, and I got my physical therapy degree there. And I lived in St. Louis, Missouri up until 2000.
What
And
was
then we came
that
down here.
street that was like in 1890s? What's the name of that? I got drunk there when years ago.
Down in Soulard, 1860s,
Yes.
1860s, actually.
We were passing through to go to Oklahoma State. We happened to stop there. We should have never stopped there.
That's a good part of town. That's a lot
I
of
think I
fun.
woke up in Joplin, Missouri or someplace. But that was when I was a little kid, about 100 years ago. Yeah. Wow. And so you came here directly from St. Louis?
Yeah, but not until 2000. So I've been a therapist. Let's say I graduated a long time ago, in like 1988, and so I've been a therapist for a long time. And I wanted
But you were
to,
only 6 years old when you graduated.
yes,
that
I was
adds up
very
nicely.
very young prodigy, and I've gone into the administrative area of physical therapy for like the last maybe 12 years. So, but I still practice. I still, do hands-on up until 4 years ago. And, well, actually last year even. So I know what it takes to be a good physical therapist, to do hands-on, to do documentation. And when I came to Tiffany Hall, like I said, the staff had been there a long time before me. And even the lady whose position I took stepped down and remained there as an occupational therapist. She didn't want to leave. She just didn't want to do administration anymore. She was tired of it.
I know her feeling.
Right. So she just wanted to work as a therapist. And so her
She's
knowledge,
awesome.
yes, her staying there has helped me, in the position, obviously. And she's an excellent hands-on therapist, and she's there in the gym with the other therapists. So they all,
Yeah, can you imagine the support that you're taking that position that used to be the director, and she's still there? So
And she voluntarily stepped down, and what kind of an asset she is to you
Oh,
right.
to help you
And,
through
and the
things.
fact that she didn't leave shows me how much she values that job, that facility.
How many staff do you have?
We have on staff full-time about 14, 15 full-time PTOT speech.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big
Wow.
facility. We're 120 bed,
know.
very busy.
and right now we have how many Medicares in short-term rehab?
36.
36.
Yeah.
36.
Back in the day, before PPS came, Prospective Payment System, it was a heyday of money from the government. I mean, it was ridiculous how much money they were giving back out. And I was a rehab director there. We had 17 therapists and 7 full-time rehab aides and a half-time physiatrist. When PPS came along, they went down to 1 of each. That was it. I mean, there was a drastic change. Well, Medicare used to be would let you double bill meds. So if somebody was on vancomycin, we wanted them at $600 a shot because they would reimburse $1,200. Then when they went to PPS, they said, well, this patient, you're going to get $320. It's everything, housing, food, rehab. And so then you didn't take the vancomycin anymore, and it couldn't afford to do that.
Right.
Both systems were crazy. And the one we're in one now still needs to be modified a bit.
Yeah,
think everybody
It's
would
being
agree.
changed again then
Yeah.
October of this year. So, CMS has their own idea of the way that things need to be reimbursed. But as therapists, we all just work on best practices. The idea is outcomes. So
Right.
whether, the facility's getting reimbursed at one rate or another, the idea is to get the residents safe and strong and able to go home, which is basically the goal of most of our short-term
Well, I'm going to
rehab
say
people.
something that's not very polite, but again, I'm old enough to be able to get away with it. How many CMS people have you ever seen in a rehab setting?
What do you mean?
How many CMS people from Washington come down and
Oh.
see what's happening?
Yeah, no.
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 It's,
They
you know,
don't come visit.
No.
They just make the rules.
Yeah, right. Are they not called bean counters sometimes? Why don't we try this? Let's
Let's
take a
let's
garage.
code it this
Let's
way.
take a garage and do a barter musical. Yeah, right. Excuse me. Sometimes. No, they're good people. In fact, my son works for the government. I have to be careful. He's a good person. But he works for the Consumer Financial Protection Agency.
He wasn't laid off, was he, recently?
No, they don't get a budget from the government.
Oh,
They give money to the government.
okay.
Remember the Wells Fargo thing, that $350 million, $450 million? That was their agency.
Oh,
They go out and they investigate for fraud.
okay.
And I think they have like 2,000 staff. They collect enough money to pay that staff, and then extra money they give to Congress. So they're not dependent.
They're not dependent.
They raise
That's
their own.
great.
Well, if we had all these
Yeah.
agencies raising their own
All of
money,
their own
that would
money.
help us.
It would.
But anyway, yeah, that's you have a good size rehab department.
We do. We do. And we have two beautiful gyms that are, we have one gym set up that's to teach the patients how to do their own cooking again and their own laundry again. We have a stove and a refrigerator and a washer and a dryer and everything like that, so that they're prepared when they go home to be able to do those things that they're going to have to do, and not just simulating it, but actually doing it.
By the way, that's occupational therapy.
Yes.
Physical therapy doesn't do cooking.
Right. That's
And when you go home, you
They
might
separate the gyms. Occupational therapy is
Yeah, right.
separate from the
Right.
physical.
Mhm. So yes, we have that, and we have physical, occupational, and speech therapy,
Mhm.
like we had mentioned.
And I'd asked whether you do the Big and Loud program, and you said yes.
Yes, we
Have you
have
been
some
certified?
therapists certified in the LSVT, which is a big and loud program designed specifically for patients with Parkinson's.
Right. And LSVT is Lee Silverman voice therapy, but the PT picked up the
Big and
exaggerated
loud
big
component,
and
correct.
I've seen people turn it on and off.
Mhm.
It is utterly amazing. I've seen them start off with a shuffle gait with a voice like this kind of. All of a sudden, boom, they're normal.
Walking.
They look normal. Now they're doing abnormal things
Mhm.
to be normal.
Absolutely. So our therapists are trained in that. We have obviously stroke rehab and orthopedic rehab, all the total hips and knees, and just every area of rehab you can imagine. We have, our therapists have touched base with every component of it because they've been there for so long. We've had trainings for. I'd say our youngest therapist has been out of school probably 5 or 6 years, and the longest is like myself, over 20, 25, 30 years. So
Mhm.
we've seen and done a lot.
Yeah. We're going to stop and take a break. Normally we take a break at 20 after. We do a little commercial, and we've exceeded that already.
Okay.
So, Mike, we have some little announcements here for you to plug into.
All right.
I have sponsors for
WSTU, we go back to the forum. Here's your host, Pat Sacco.
Thank you. Now, Julie, it's your turn. Give us a little bio on Julie.
Okay, I was born in Washington, D.C. My dad worked for the federal government, and I graduated from Prince George's College in Largo, Maryland, with a degree in health information management. And I worked in probably one hospital in D.C. and two in Maryland. And then I moved to Jupiter, Florida, and started working at JFK Medical Center. And then I was hired by Dr. Monroe Benaim to run the medical record department in an eye surgery center in Jupiter. And then I moved to Stewart and started working for Martin Memorial. I opened the wound center in 2003 with the Sangili doctors. And then in 2009, left there to start my wonderful and favorite, I have to say, career in long-term care, rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why I love it so much? It's different from hospitals and outpatient surgery centers and wound centers. Reason I love it so much is it's an intimate setting. You don't go home at the end of your appointment or the end of your your family is a part of it. It's your temporary home if you're there short-term basis, or your permanent home. So it's just I just love that aspect of the healthcare spectrum.
The hard thing about dealing with nursing homes, okay, they are an essential ingredient in our society. We cannot do away with them. There has to be a place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look nationally, the average length of stay in a nursing home is less than 2 years. Now, obviously, there are patients there for 10, 15 years, but many of them expire or move on. So it's not a long-term commitment for many of the residents. How do we get by this thing of institution? You got a building, you got 120 beds, you got hallways and all that stuff. How do we get by that? What are we going to do in the future?
Well, I think a big thing that Tiffany Hall does, and what we want to try to make it seem is more home-like. So although you may have nurses up and down the hallways, you may have, what some may think of as an institution, we have activities that bring people together and get them to know one another and make it more home-like. So we have events, we have have an activity director who's put things together, especially even for those memory patients with dementia, residents with dementia, and they have special programs that help them to feel comfortable and to be able to communicate or just enjoy the time that they have in the facility where they are and continue to grow and be comfortable.
The reason you can't do without them, however long your stay is in a nursing facility, is because your extended your family in this economy, and it's been this way for I don't know how long. It's not like the 50s and 60s, Pat. It takes every member of the family to support. It's not like you can take mom and dad home, or if you're a spouse and you can no longer be the full-time caregiver of your spouse who needs full-time care. There has to be a place,
and they have to give it up.
For
a lot of couples will say, "Well, I'll promise you, I'll never put you in a nursing home." That's the worst thing you can do to someone, because when you get down to the nitty-gritty, you cannot take care of your loved one at home in a proper, safe, efficient way. You're not a dietitian. So we're looking at fecal impaction. We're looking at dehydration. You're not a physical therapist and trying to transfer him from wheelchair to bed or to toilet, and he's going to fall and fracture a hip. And that's the beginning of a long problem. You don't know about picking up the knives off of the countertop. How the door
putting your lovely
appropriate into the bathroom.
That you
scatter
trip
rugs,
over.
But all these things, you don't know those things. And skilled services, including nursing and rehabilitation, are the answer to the best comfort that a person can get.
Exactly.
Now, my dream is to have somebody take a tract of land and built 10 homes, okay, for a 120 bed facility.
For how much land?
10 homes in this
Okay.
little tract, little circular thing.
Okay.
And you're going to put, if you do 10, you're going to put 12 people in each home. And you're going to have a home environment. And the therapists will go from home to home. Some of the nurses will go from home to home. Some of the aides will go from home to home. But put them in a home environment.
They
Even
are-
though they get the same, I know we're trying to set that up, but
Right.
again, to get away from this massive thing that you can't avoid, you have to have this.
Mhm.
But that could be something phenomenal.
Certainly, yeah. For they have those now for like assisted living,
Right.
Smaller, like just homes where they have maybe 6 to 8 residents
Mhm.
staying in there. And our social service director Nettie, she does a real good job of trying to place people in an appropriate facility once they're finished with their rehab. If they can no longer go home and because they live alone and they need some kind of assisted living, if they are able to go into one of those type of homes, if that resident is more appropriate, she will send them to that and give them the information, let them tour. Some people require a larger facility though,
True.
where there's more activity, more people around, or maybe more eyes on. Everybody needs something a little bit different. And that's where the skill of a social service director who knows the area and has great contacts in the area can help provide that next step from coming from short-term rehab into an assisted living.
Where we live,
area.
there was a place called Sanye, SON, State of New York Epileptic Association. Okay, SONAYEA. Well, it started off as that. It was started off as a tuberculosis place where you had TB and lived there. And then it ended up being with people with severe physical and mental disorders. Someone who was maybe 2.5 feet long, who's 80 years old in a crib. Someone with an IQ of 6 months. They had these people isolated, and there was a wall. Hate to say the wall. And the people who lived there perceived the wall as keeping people out of their environment rather than blocking them from getting out. And it would drab walls. It was an institution. Well, they came in and they painted the walls pastel colors. All of a sudden, the patients there, the residents, seemed to perk up a little bit. Well, finally, the state said, we can't do this anymore. We're going to put these people in homes. So they took that facility and made it a minimum security prison. And we were only about 40 miles away from Attica. I don't know if you know Attica prison, okay? And somebody who was doing 30 years had 2 years left. They moved them over there because they weren't going to run away. They were going to finish out their time. It was like a campus. Yes, they put up all the barriers and the ribbon wire and all that stuff. But the thing is, they could go out and walk around the grounds. They didn't feel like they were in a cell, you know. But the patients that they put in to the community all of a sudden got intelligent. They had one guy would lay on the floor, was about 6'2", and bite people as they walk by. They said he had an IQ of 6 months. He pushes the grocery cart when they go shopping. He smiles all the time. He's in an environment. He's not in an institution anymore. And when you put people like that back into society, they seem to be functioning really well, you know, in spite of their disabilities. And I think if you had somebody who is in a quotes nursing home and put them in a quotes home that's a little more home environment, they're going to probably perk up too. Have you ever gone out to lunch with some of these guys? If they have an outing at a Chinese restaurant, do it. They go out and they order whiskey sours. They seem to be perking up. You put them back in their room and they just kind of go slump again. You know, it's getting them out and doing things. And again, you guys do a great job with the activities and the staff interactions. One of the things I used to do as a rehab director, I mean, when I was a rehab director, and then when I went into marketing, I made sure I told a lot of staff who this person was, what they were in the past, to give them another level of respect. In our society,
And
the
that's
older you
another
get,
thing,
the more invisible you become.
No, that's another thing I love about working at Tiffany Hall. The you and long-term care with this they're the greatest generation. These are people that were kids or were raised by parents who grew up in the Great Depression and teenagers in World War II. I mean, the stories that you hear just absolutely floor you.
Well, let me cut to the chase because I've told this before. There was a lady would sit in her wheelchair in her doorway watching people go by, and she was invisible. Nobody knew her. Nobody said anything. So I stopped and I introduced myself and developed a nice little relationship with her. She saw me coming. She'd smile, like, oh, there I am real. And I said, what did you do when you were young? She said, wait a minute. She wheeled herself in the room, came out with 2 black and white photos, handed me the first one. She was naked on a bearskin rug, laying on the bearskin rug. Beautiful face, long hair. I'm a gorgeous lady, cute little. She handed me the second one. She was in a gown, and there were 2 guys with tuxes, one on each side. She said, the guy on my left was my husband. The guy on the right was Walt Disney. I said, what? Well, they owned 2 dance studios in LA and 2 in New York pre-World War II. And so we hobnobbed with all those people in Hollywood and everything. I went around and told that story. Everybody stopped and wanted to see the pictures. She became real. She wasn't invisible anymore. And those are the kinds of things. Once we know, we follow up. Somebody was a nursing home administrator, own a chain of stores and stuff like that. When we know these things,
Oh my gosh.
there's a dignity that we assign to them.
Absolutely.
That reminds me, I would ask the men residents when they would come in, if if they were a veteran, and not so much the women. And then, boy, did I learn my lesson. I found out after I had a veteran, female. She was working in London, and she was the one that would send the pilots out over the canal, over the channel, over the English Channel, on bombing raids over Germany. And she was the one that would be scheduling these planes to come in and out over the English Channel.
Did you ever hear of Rosie the Riveter?
She was in our
Yeah,
facility.
of course.
They were in factories. My father worked for Bell Aircraft during the war, and they worked on B-29 bombers. And wow,
Yeah. It's
then the
incredible.
stories you hear.
Yeah,
My
it's an
father-in-law
honor.
is 95 years old, and he's so much with it. My God, unbelievable. And he tells stories. He was a surgical tech in the Army. So he was in surgery assisting. He was closing, wounds and stuff, and he wasn't supposed to do that. But they were shorthanded, and you had to train the people to do that. And some of the stories that he tells about are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's an honor. It really is an honor to.
And as you said, getting to know the individual is imperative as far as providing good care and good rehab. And when people come in for their short-term stay, it's one of our things that we do right off the bat. Within the first 48 hours, we meet with the resident and their family and find out about them, what kind of things they like, what kind of music or hobbies they had, what they did for a living, things that will help you best serve them, so that when they get the best out of the rehab that you're
And you have a
providing.
beautiful
what they
courtyard
go-
in the middle of your building. People can wander there. They're not going to
Mhm.
get lost. They're out there looking at the trees and the flowers and stuff, and it's safe. It's ringed with the building. And
I have to mention our doctors there.
Right.
Can't neglect them. We have they have practices in St. Lucie County, and our medical director is actually Dr. Ravi Meehan. He has offices in Port St. Lucie and Martin County. And the doctors that are on staff there that come in actually refer their patients and follow them at Tiffany Hall. So you have that continuation of care where you're not turning, your patient over to a doctor that's never seen them before. So that's really an important thing to know about Tiffany, that many of our doctors follow their patients.
And another strong point at Tiffany Hall that is not at every other facility is that we have an in-house pain management and in-house wound care. So that stay. So if you're complaining of pain, or you have some things that cannot be handled by just the regular doctor who's on staff there, they don't have to send you out. Same with psychiatry. We have psychiatry, we have psychology that come to the facility, so they can speak with you and prescribe things that are appropriate for you. As well as a wound doctor who rounds every Tuesday and will address your wounds and we
as
have
well as
these-
podiatrist, dentist.
Yes.
are we
yes.
breaking the myth of they're all
And eye
alike?
doctors. I hope so. Because I believe it's outstanding compared to other facilities as far as the things that we offer, the skill that we provide, and the results that we get. And that's ultimately what we're
And
looking
again,
for.
I have to say, it all focuses on leadership.
Yeah, exactly.
As
it
a
starts
good
from the top.
rehab
Yep.
director, you're a
It's-
leader. You know what needs to be done, and you get your staff to respond to the needs. Diane is a leader. She gets her staff to respond to the needs, and we're not just kind of treading water.
Right. It starts from the top down.
It
And
really
Diane
does.
takes
And
a role
her-
in everything, which
and
is
her work ethic, I have to say, I mean, she is first thing in the morning is through the building,
right.
saying hello to
Mhm.
the knows all the residents, knows the staff, and before she leaves, and her hours are not 9 to 5 by any means. So, and that filters down to your staff and impacts everyone there.
If I was
Just-
working to put a loved one in a community like that, I would ask I'm terrible. I would ask the director, how many people do you know here? How many residents do you know?
And then
How
you
many
would come to
residents know
Tiffany
you?
Hall because
Oh.
Diane knows everyone in her
oh,
building.
I have, Pat,
I think
have
you
an
could
answer.
find it.
Oh, I have an answer for you.
All right.
She was not at work, okay, and with her husband, and we were having to do a room change. Not only did she know the resident, she knew what room and bed this resident was in, like just.
See?
And the husband was blown away by that, and Diane just smiled. Yes, she
Yeah.
she really is invested there, and the impact is filters down for the care, the professional people that she hires. It really is a
Well, there's another impact if an ED, for instance, in the morning goes around and says, "Good morning, everybody." There's a great impact to the staff.
Yes.
Oh, she came out of her building, or he gets out of his office once in a while, or he's around all the time. That's an asset.
And very
Mhm.
accessible. Her door is always open.
that's true too.
You know, when
Yeah,
she, in
absolutely
her office,
And you
that,
have to have that.
that family members or staff
Yeah.
or anyone can just come talk
Can
to
just
her.
walk in.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't have to make an appointment with Diane. Just open door policy, and that's the way to.
Well, I know her kids and everything, so I'm going
Yeah, you
to get cut up
you
with
know.
Jeanne, and so
Yeah.
it's. I'm proud of her. I really am, because, like I said, we were cohorts together, and I'm always happy to see these things happen.
Mhm.
And I think it speaks of the nature of goodness of them. She was a social worker in a nursing home, but she had the insight to do her AIT, and as well as John did, and learn to be a leader, or to
Right.
step into that leadership role, because both of them had the potential of being good leaders, and they were.
Mhm.
John was, and she is.
Mhm.
You know?
Absolutely.
But John Eastman,
Oh, okay.
who was
the gentleman he spoke
The
of, who was a
gentleman I
maintenance
spoke of
worker
who passed away,
That's
who-
right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough to be a maintenance man,
Yeah, there's
because
always
everybody
something
comes
do.
to you and says, "Will you fix this?" John used to say, "Memo," and walk away. He wouldn't talk to anybody about fixing anything, because he'd have 20 people following him around, bombarding him with things. Put it in writing. I'll take care of it. And when they did, he did. That was it.
Okay, since you brought that up, I was talking to our maintenance director, Thurston, who jokingly said, "Okay, mention me. I'm the best maintenance department head there around, and tell them they break it, we fix it."
It's
Shout out to
Thurston. Is it
Thurston.
Shout
Thurston?
out, say
Thurston?
shout out to Thurston.
Thurston. Okay, Thurston, you owe her the money. She promised. You promised you'd pay her to mention your name on the air.
They break it, we fix it.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Well, normally in the store, you break it, you buy it. You
Yeah.
bought it.
Yeah, no, he's good.
What a job that is, to fix everything in that
Mhm.
building.
No,
There's a leak somewhere.
you
There's
kinda
this,
have
some
to know it all.
little patch somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
my God, it's like a nightmare.
Mhm.
In fact,
Yeah.
when you walked into John's shop, it was like Home Depot.
Exactly.
Everything was all lined
Has to
up,
be.
and
It has to be.
oh my God.
Because you need every little. You can't be running out to the hardware store. For
And if you
every-
borrowed it, you better bring it back right away. Need a screwdriver right away. It's got to come back, and it has a little hook
Uh-huh.
on it with a thing inside. You know where it goes.
Yeah.
Painted.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
you're
It's
impressed
a-
with people like that, who are organized to that point, and who have it done. Sometimes you have to paint a room. Have to fix a floor.
Mhm.
Tile comes up. All those
Mhm.
things. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
I think one thing people have an opinion of skilled nursing facilities and a fear of all the time is that how clean or they think they're dirty or whatever. And a shout out to our housekeeping too, to Joanne. They keep that facility gorgeous, and the floors are always being cleaned, and the smell is like a resort. They keep it very clean and very beautiful on the inside and out. So that's puts hopefully that to rest. When people come tour, that's something that they say is how clean the facility is, which gives a good impression if you're going to leave if you're going to leave your loved one there.
Well, again, there are odors that are unavoidable.
Right.
Okay, but they're quickly
to be cleaned up.
Yeah, you don't want to walk down the hall and smell this sweet smell
Mhm.
because somebody sprayed, hiding an odor. Get the spray ups. I can tell whenever I smell that spray, I go, "Oh, there's something needs to be cleaned here somewhere."
So as we put shout outs to everybody who works at Tiffany Hall, it just goes to show it's a big team. It's a team and it's a family. The administration and the staff, they all work together every day and even do things together outside of work because they become so close. So that's also approached on me.
How many
impressed
years
on
has
me.
Tiffany? all been-
Going on 30 years now, I believe.
I remember when it opened.
Yeah.
I was only 6.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, going on 30. In fact, Yuli has worked there. Shout out to Yuli. She's an asset, been working there at 29 years.
Wow.
What does
Yeah.
Yuli do?
She's a
She
CNA and
does
she does our
everything.
customer service more or less.
She
really
Oh.
attends to the people when they come.
works for actually under our department, getting the rooms ready, room changes, just
Meeting the people when they first
greeting the
come,
people
finding
when
out
they
what
first
their
come in, finding
needs
out what
are.
their physical needs
Mhm,
are.
mhm.
their diet
She's,
preferences.
And her position, Diane created. Not every facility has a Yuli. She recognized that
Oh.
you needed.
Someone
She
to
took
start
her
with
from the
customer
CNA
service, right?
position to
Nice.
a
An ambassador.
welcoming.
Kind of thing,
Yeah,
Yes.
she has the nice little gift bag on the over bed table that has every lotion and.
I'm trying to think if I know her. I may know her.
Probably.
You probably do.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been there for. a
I'll
long
have to stop
time.
in and say hello to Diane and Yuli.
Yes,
Please do.
please.
And you
do.
guys.
You
Yeah.
come
I
and
want to see your gym. I want to see.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please come. Yes.
Terrific.
And can I just say, thank you.
All right. Quick number for contact. Phone number is.
Phone number for Tiffany Hall is 772-337-3565.
Okay. And we'll be back next week with another program on the forum. Thank you.